Welcome back everyone once again to another truck request video. Today is the International Loadstar 1700 and this is by your doing. So thank you guys so much for voting this truck, and also thank you for the upvotes on this comment right here. Please at this time pause the video, go down into the comments, give me a vote for the next base game truck that you would like to see, and the next truck request will be from the most upvoted comment that is in the comments section. So thank you guys so much for your participation. Cast your votes, upvote, and then let's see what we have next. Anyways, moving forward here, the International Loadstar. If you'd like to see any other information about this, I have multiple tier lists. The new 2025 tier list is not out yet. That one will come out whenever the mid-season DLC truck debuts. I'll take some time and then I'll make a new tier list. So I'm kind of waiting on that right now. But if you'd like to see any more information, please check out the reviews tier list. I talk about the International Loadstar respectively. The review is pretty straightforward. I believe I still agree with most things that I said back in, I think, 2021. About this vehicle. There might be a couple things I disagree with. One of those I will talk about here when we talk about engines, but overall, I think the big picture I still agree with. The Loadstar is very unique. It is very powerful. It is one of my favorite scouts in the game. Now, I did say it's unique, and the reason why it's unique, it's probably the first crossover scout that we've had in the game ever. What I mean by crossover is it is a scout truck, which it gets all the perks of being a scout, hauling scout trailers, having the autonomous winch, and all those things like that. But it also benefits from having truck parts, meaning hauling class vehicle parts in it. And you'll see that as we go through. It doesn't have a big fuel capacity at 35 gallons. As you can see, it has a massive high power to weight value. We'll talk about engine options here in a second. 41-inch tires, relatively large for a scout. And something that's very huge is on a American vehicle, having always on all-wheel drive and diff lock is, well, it's massive. And you'll see the performance. I'm pretty sure if you've watched this or you've played the game and driven this truck, you understand how good it is in performance value. But if you don't, stick along later in the video, you'll see this thing just driving like a madman. So anyways, moving forward here. The reason why this truck is very unique here still in 2025 is, well, not many trucks in this class are this strong. Essentially, they don't share parts from other truck classes, usually if you're in the Scout class. Usually, trucks that are newer are much more unique, but it's kind of weird that a truck from 2020 still kind of is unique. Engine sets. This is not a Scout engine. This is an engine shared by trucks from the hauling class vehicles, like the Freightliner 114 SD, also Kodiak C70, and also other trucks that have these engine sets in their options. This one is 145,000 torque. This one is 135. Now you can see when I'm toggling through here, the only thing that's changing is base consumption, because the truck itself has very, very high power to weight. So this is a candidate to downgrade the engine. And I talked about this on the power versus efficiency video. The Loadstar has decent weight to it, but has so much torque from these engine sets being truck engines that this 0.5 difference in fuel burn is a viable option to consider because of the low fuel capacity in this truck as well. I do not think this is a very efficient vehicle. Usually when I'm driving around in this, I have a Scout fuel trailer attached to me at the hip, essentially. It does not leave me. That's how I travel with this truck, unless I'm going a short distance or going to pick something up that's like a mission trailer. Moving forward here, the next thing that makes this unique is it's not a Scout gearbox. Scout gearboxes are really not that good, to be honest. The highway gearbox in the Scout, they're not that good. The high gear is not that good, and neither is the SnowRunner gearbox. They don't really go that fast. The high range gearbox, however, and the off-road gearbox, they move pretty quick. And this has the high range gearbox. If you like to maximize your fuel, you could go balanced and make your fuel performance even better. I think it's like 20%. This is 30, this is 40. I would actually just use the high range because the truck itself has so much power. It can get to the highest heights of the high range gear itself. And then if it's there, it doesn't have to continue to chase that top speed. And that's where this truck can just move at fast paces, at a moderate fuel burn. But if it's under a lot of stress from the elements, its fuel burn, in my opinion, I think will get a little bit higher than I'd like to see it. With the downgraded engine and the high range gearbox, it's a lot more manageable, I would say. So, and then also just carry a fuel trailer behind you. So moving on here to the off-road gearbox, this is one I tend to use a lot because knowing that its engine sets are very fragile, and this is something I will disagree with my review, is the engine sets itself are fragile. The engine I'm currently using in this truck right now, the first one, is a 30% durability, essentially. So its damage tolerance is 30%. So that means if you damage the engine 30% of its damage tolerance total, it's going to be damaged. And you don't want that. The next gearbox is a 40%, so it's only 10% better. And moving at fast paces, you can really rack up damage, especially with this vehicle. So sometimes I tend to use the off-road. And then if I do need to go faster than just what high gear offers, auto, it will tend to stay in fourth gear because it has that much power. So that's something to consider. Raised suspension is a must. If you buy this vehicle prior to going to Alaska, you are going to bust up your nose pretty well. I've done it. You can see how much ground clearance you just get from that raised suspension. It is a pretty large bump. I would say go to Mountain River, Alaska, get this upgrade, and it changes this vehicle. If there's any upgrade that this vehicle absolutely needs, is the raised suspension and most likely the autonomous winch because, well, it's a Scout, right? Tire sets, this is another thing that makes this unique. You notice that there's no Scout tires on here, no MS tires, no mud tires. It has dually off-road tires. And what I use is essentially the UODs or the Jet OMD tires. I mentioned the autonomous winch. This is something that makes it a Scout. This is probably one of the most, I think, powerful add-ons you can have on a vehicle is the autonomous winch. The other one is essentially the small crane. So this gives you that second, third, fourth try if you need. And this is what it shares with the Scout class. Snorkel as well. It's basically on there. You don't have to ever buy it. Kind of nice. And then we move to add-ons. They are very, very limited. And I would say the only add-on I think you should use is the one that's currently equipped. Here's my reasoning for that. The service cab add-on only gives you 400 repair points. The pickup chassis gives you, well, less repair points, but you get 3 spare tires and also a little bit of fuel. I will take the 3 spare tires because you will damage and pop tires if you make mistakes. So I would rather be able to repair these and also repair my engine damage, which will happen at some point. And then also give me a little farther or almost enough to give me another full load of gas. But in this case, you probably should be hauling the Scout fuel trailer, like I said. The service cab, you can use this. I would rather probably use this just because of the spare tires. But, you have 400 repair points. This is decent if you want to go out and make a small repairs on a vehicle as well. This is one I probably would stay away from. If you watch my Dave's Dangerous Deliveries, I think part 2, which is essentially where he made these custom missions in Smithville Dam and also in Black River, and he made them really tough. There was a mission where I had to deliver, I think, a Scout trailer down into this valley, and I had to use this basically. And I used, I think, this crane, and it was really tough. The crane itself, if this was the blue crane, it probably would be more manageable just because the blue crane is lighter than the yellow crane here. But on surfaces that are uneven, even just deploying this, you can almost tip yourself over. Now, if you want to test this for yourself, just take it out of the garage and just drive down the road. You'll see how hard it is to keep this on its wheels with this add-on. This is a wonderful add-on. I just mentioned that it's one of the most powerful add-ons in the game, but not necessarily on the Loadstar, in my opinion. I think if I'm going to use a small crane to deliver cargo, it's most likely going to be on a hauling class truck. So that is the International Loadstar 1700. We're going to jump in here to the driving portion. I'm going to talk about my experience as a early game player, how it stacks up here in 2025, moving on to 2026 and Q1 2027, and then also where I would put it on a tier list potentially. So let's get started. If I'm being quite honest here, the Loadstar went unnoticed in most of my beginning parts of the game back in 2020. I was just too caught up in the larger trucks that I shuffled over it in the garage store. After a few hundred hours, of course, I finally noticed the American truck with always-on features and immediately determined it was worth the try. Boy, was that a good decision. The Loadstar is one of the most unique scouts in the game still in 2025, which is why I mentioned it in the early parts of this video, being that it does have truck parts, so the vehicle itself is almost like a hybrid, if you will. Its performance for a scout is quite a thing to witness, as you probably are seeing on screen. It's very rare that scouts roll down trails and pull trailers like they're not even hooked up. The Loadstar was a truck that I could pull the prototype exploration unit and winch a scout fuel trailer behind it and have no issues driving around discovering maps, except for a few of them which will not be named. Something I noticed when jackknifing a scout fuel trailer is the Loadstar resists flipping. It would just nudge the trailer back and back and back more often than just tipping over or tipping up on two wheels, giving you that warning sign that you're about to tip over. So essentially, it just bosses around scout trailers. Being a crossover or a hybrid scout with truck features sets itself apart from other standard scouts, and to be honest, it's really nice to see that it's still a strong scout even today with some of the stronger additions as of late. In the video, you'll see the steering is very fast and able to respond to upcoming turns and surfaces. Something I like to do in the Loadstar is feather the throttle a lot, as you see here. This is how you can reduce damage taken, but the Loadstar is also able to maintain H gear even when low feathering throttle speeds are in place, basically, because it has that much power and it's able to recover when you plan on cracking the throttle wide open again. Two questions remain before we finish is, how does this vehicle stack up here against the current class that it's in? And also, how will it stack up in the Year 5 pass whenever it concludes in Q1 2027? It could sound biased to some, but it also might sound like a based comment. I'm just going to say I think it's going to stack up really well. There's not really many scouts in its class that can do what the Loadstar can do. Yes, it cannot traverse super conditions like a few scouts in this class can do, but its overall performance with its truck features, its overall power, and its violent nature when it comes to just speeding down trails and dealing with scout trailers, it almost feels like it's second to none in that category. So I think it actually is going to be rather high in its class. Maybe top 5 is a conservative figure there. Now moving forward to 2027 Q1, whenever the game actually finishes, we don't know if we're going to get any more scouts. I don't think Saber has any intention of giving us more scouts. I'm probably going to bite my tongue on this later down the road, but hopefully we don't get more scouts. But if we do, I still think the Loadstar has basically cemented itself in the top tiers of its class. And with that being said, that is all I have for you guys today. Please go down into the comments and give me your best base game truck that you would like to see next, and the most upvoted comment will be the one we feature on the next truck request video. Hope you guys have really enjoyed the video and potentially learned a few things along the way as well. So until next time, God bless and stay upright.